You have to let me know if you can hear them.
I can hear you, so yeah, I'll let you know if I don't hear it.
My switch doesn't work. It's on no matter what. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our township meeting. This meeting I'll call to order. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. What's that? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our township meeting. It is Monday, January 27th, 2025. We have agendas up here at the podium if anybody needs a copy of tonight's agenda. In attendance, we have, starting over there, Supervisor Albert, Supervisor Friedman, Supervisor Ekman, and Supervisor Erler. I'm Supervisor Birmingham, and we do have a quorum for tonight's meeting. Have the supervisors seen tonight's agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to change the amendment. Tabled items, I'd like to move number 2 up to number 1.
Okay. Do we have a second for that?
I'll second it.
Okay. And for the overall approval of the agenda as well, under tabled items, number 2 has been moved up to number 1, and then continuing down the order. We have a motion. It's been seconded. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're going to open it up for public comment. What I will say first, if you have a question or a comment about MedEd, since we have our MedEd representative here tonight, thank you, Thea, for joining us. We appreciate your time. If you have a comment for Ms. Lind, to hold off on your comment under this public comment. If you have something outside of the MedEd issues, I'll open that up for public comment now. And during the MedEd discussion is when you can ask questions or comments about MedEd. Before I do open it up for public comment, Solicitor Karasak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say 1 or 2 words before we begin public comment. Over the last few weeks, I would say, or maybe a couple of months or so, the public comment has been getting somewhat acrimonious, and I'm going to hold my tongue because I'm not an elected official. I'm an appointed official, and I don't want to in any way stop people from saying what they want to say. But if you have something that you want to say that is demeaning or embarrassing or somehow disruptive of someone else, I'd ask you to please consider not doing that and simply comment upon what you may have in front of you and what you would want to discuss. Again, it's not meant to stifle anybody or to prevent any content from being stated. That's not my purpose, but my purpose is to be perhaps a bit more civil than we have been in public comment sessions. And that being said, that's all I'm going to say about it right now. Thank you.
Okay, with that being said, we'll open it up for public comment, non-MedEd issues. Ray, and come up to the podium, name and address, and please talk into the microphone.
Ray Higgins, 580 Centerville Road. I actually have a really off-topic idea for you guys. We've had a lot of fires lately, and we have that Eastern Industry property sitting over there. And on that property, you have a home that's there. And my suggestion to the township would be, and also volunteering to the township, that we somehow restore and save that home, maybe make it 2 units. And when we have a disaster like this, that family will have somewhere to go. And we can actually support that family. And I'll gather enough people together and enough businesses together that it won't cost the town anything to do it. we'll find a way to do it. And then we can have somewhere that's in an emergency situation. Obviously, you guys will have to come up with some kind of guidelines, what qualifies as an emergency, how long they can stay, that kind of thing. But we've had a bunch lately, and these people really, when something like that happens, they really don't know where to turn. So maybe we can be that light that they can turn to. Just an idea for you.
Thanks, Ray. Good idea. Anyone else? Public comment? Tara?
Good evening, Tara Mezzanotte, your I-80 611 PennDOT NJDOT liaison. Tonight I want to bring something new up, and that is Amtrak PennDOT was recently awarded a contract for the next phase of the PennDOT expansion. So next of the Amtrak expansion. So Amtrak will be coming in as proposed through Slateford. I am Knowlton's Amtrak liaison. Not that I'm, driving around saying what other hat can I wear, but I'm at that table anyway, and I'm in conversations with PennDOT right now, and who is their project manager for that Amtrak situation. And it would be helpful, like everything else, that if another municipality would welcome such a liaison, because then I'm sitting there anyway gathering information to Knowlton on one side. In your case, it would be Upper Mount Bethel on the other. And it is heading in the same direction as the process for the I-80 situation and the 611 situation. What they're doing, you can think of as concept development. They're going to be looking at what all needs to be done to pull this off and what could it look like. And they're going to be deciding whether that should be an environmental assessment or an environmental impact statement. So they're going to be looking at all the historic resources, all the same things that I've been talking about as it relates to those projects, which then does wind along in between those projects. So I'm curious what your thoughts might be on such a thing.
To be the liaison for the Amtrak for Upper Mount Bethel.
I'd suggest she submit a letter of interest outlining what she just stated. And that way we can have a formal vote and discussion on the matter.
Anyone else? Okay, that
Shall
would be
do.
great.
Okay, no other update tonight.
Thank you, Tara. Ron?
Good evening. I just wanted to point out some facts. There's an individual here in the audience who had opposition to the Portland Water Authority drilling another well up at their place in Upper Mount Bethel Township. That same individual has set up a number of roadblocks and tried to obstruct RPL. And in the name of taxpayer money, there was a chip maker. I don't know how many of you know this, but there was a chip maker going to come into Demi Road. The name was 2-6. They've since merged with somebody else. And they would have employed 400 people, maybe 6 trucks a day. And again, the individual here in the audience ran interference on that, and they pulled out. And also, the construction permit on that Demi Road project would have generated $525,000 for the township in the way of permits, building permits, and another 50 cents a foot that would have went into the NID. This same individual has cost the township, just on that one thing on Demi Road, as I just pointed out, $525,000 in permits and the other 50 cents. This same individual pays real estate taxes of $2,600 per year. So it would take, as best as I could calculate, 200 plus years of his real estate taxes to pay for the money that he cost this township. And the most recent thing that he's done is went to DEP and said there's fly ash being removed from the site of the old Med-Ed plant, which completely is untrue. Nothing has been removed from there yet. I checked into that myself. But that individual sits here in the audience, and he actually exercises quite a bit of influence on a few people here on the board. Thank you, Mr. Cole.
Anyone else? Public comment?
Sharon Duffield, 554 Potomac. Ladies and gentlemen, I am tired of sitting here. The meetings that I have been able to come to, and I have missed several, I'll admit, and have to listen to items like were just spewed. This is a supervisor's meeting for supervisor's business. Frankly, I am tired of sitting here as a resident and listening to constant attacks from various individuals. But that, in my mind, was completely and totally uncalled for. I wish we would stick, please, to the business at hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. No comments come this way. Anyone else? Public comment? Okay, moving on. Ms. Lynn, thank you so much for your time. Can you hear me okay?
Can't hear her.
Can't hear you.
Yep, I hear you.
There you are.
I had to take myself off mute.
All right, well, thank you, Ms. Lind. Really appreciate your time here today. And I hope you're feeling better as well. Ms. Lind was going to be here in person, but she had an unfortunate incident, and but still made herself available. So thank you, Ms. Lind. We'll wait for Ms. Lind to come back.
She's still there.
You're back.
I can see you.
All right, good to have you back. So, Ms. Lind,
I'm not touching anything.
She's still on the computer.
I haven't lost you.
no. Let's wait and see if
Hold
this
on,
gets
we can't
fixed.
see you.
Oh, you can't? Oh, okay, I
there
can still
you
see
are.
you. Is your wire loose? Maybe
Only
your
the
HDMI
jiggle.
wire.
The jiggle
I
works.
think we're good.
All right. So,
You good?
so Ms. Lind, we had residents submit questions that they had for you. I sent them to you last week. So I'll open the floor to you, so you can go through their questions and give med ed responses.
Sure. It was a lot of questions, and kind of some of them were concerning the same areas,
Sure.
the same issues. So some of those I'll kind of answer in generalizations for you. But I just wanted to come here, and I know it was important for me to come here because it has been a really tough year for you guys, and we recognize that it has not been the reliability that you've been used to. We got hit with some storms, but you know, some of you know that we had outages on blue sky days as well. And our leadership did hear that, which is good. So I also have a number of projects to kind of share with you that are slated for the next year or so, which I can do at the end. So do you want me to go through, those residents here, do you want me to go through that, or would you prefer, how would you like to do it?
I would say, you know, we can start at number one, question number one. And as we go through the questions, if it starts to become the same question that you've already answered, then we'll all know that, and we can skip it or.
Sounds good.
Yeah, okay. So like the first
So
question.
for the first one,
Yeah.
for the first one, it says, why does it take so long for broken equipment to get fixed? With this one, without a specific example, I can't speak to that one. So if that one if they have a specific example for that, 'cause it says should not take 9+ months for broken equipment. So I'm not sure what equipment was broken that long. That one has a second part. The trees come down the same spot on River Road within Med Ed right of way. So a little bit about our right of way. Our distribution right of way tends to be 10 feet from the center of the pole if we have a right of way there. You did have a number of trees come down on River Road, and that's for a number of reasons. So obviously it's River Road. You're right, you're right there. That water tends to be more saturated. You have a lot of trees that are very old. It's older infrastructure there for us as well. So when you're seeing those off right-of-way trees come down, which was on your River Road instances, they were all off right-of-way. So they're outside of that 10 feet or so. And we're just, in general, we're seeing this more because these mature trees, they're kind of coming to that age. We had the ash borer, we had a lot of things. So it is happening more. I won't say it's not. Some of those for that are identifying problem trees sooner, even if they're outside of that right of way. But there are also a number of projects slated to improve those wires, upgrade the wires, add the reclosers, which will allow for switching on those areas, because being that where that is, that River Road, that part of that circuit, it tends to take out a number of people downstream from that. So to get some reclosers on that would allow us to switch customers, get them back on quicker, and really shorten those outages. So some things coming there. Any follow-ups on that one? I'll give you guys a chance to follow it up in case that was your question.
Any questions from the supervisors? Okay.
What was that?
No questions from the supervisors.
Okay. Shout it if there are. Okay, the second one was Tuscaloosa Village, the power feeders. That's an underground community, and they have had several issues, and we have replaced 2 underground feeders. So underground circuits are inspected on a 2-year circuit, so every other year. There is also an LTIP project scheduled for that. The LTIP, our long-term infrastructure improvement program. It's a PUC approved. We submit to them projects. They look at some of what our least performing circuits otherwise are, and they approve the use of spending for those projects. So I think I counted for next year just a sense affecting Upper Mount Bethel. And that includes Portland, and that there are 9 LTIP projects scheduled for next year. So a lot of work that we can do in that area for sure.
And I'm sorry, tell us again, how often do they get replaced or upgraded?
Well, they get replaced as needed, but they do get inspected. So the underground circuits are on a 2-year inspection cycle. Everything is kind of on its own. Trees for Med Ed are on a 4-year cycle, so there's right-of-way. So different things kind of have different cycles for how we inspect them, but they all have regular inspections.
Okay. Any questions from the supervisors? Okay, we can move on to the next one.
Okay. Someone noted, it said, I think in the paper about the tree trimming in the following communities. So you guys had tree trimming on some of yours. It says in this list is absent is Mount Bethel and Borough Portland and Slateford. So those communities are just on a different schedule than you guys. So you had some of yours in 2023 in your circuits, some in 2021, so they're due this year. Some, so it kind of, we aren't able obviously to do all of them every year, but they are staggered on that. I will note too, with tree trimming, we had a rate increase that we went for that was effective this year. That did include a substantial amount for tree trimming for Med Ed, just recognizing the age of trees in our communities, the abundance of trees. They are the biggest cause of outages for us, and really just kind of putting in money to get that to be a lesser issue for reliability for us.
Okay, any questions? Okay, go ahead. Next one.
Sure. I will say this one says that they have a note that the trees around the community that are close on power lines, typically those tend to be communication lines, but if you're ever unsure, we do have on our website, you can just even Google MedEd report a tree, and there's a form that you can, put in where your address is, that account number, and it will send a forester out there. Then they do check every one of those. So if you're ever unsure, don't be afraid to call it in or report it, but there is a specific reporting option for trees as well.
Hey, Nick, can you put that on our township Facebook page? the form that she said you could
Yeah.
fill out? Okay, that'd be great. Or call Nick, our township manager. He'll fill out the form for you.
Yeah. I will say, if residents do it from their account, it helps us map it to where the actual fee. I know some City of Easton just had, they wanted to report a bunch, and it's harder for them to, I'm like, where exactly? So definitely, if you have an associated address that links to, it's easy to identify trees quicker.
Okay. Yeah, Supervisor Erler has a question for you.
Have you received many of these comments directly to you from any Mount Bethel residents?
I'm not public facing. I'm not customer facing. I'll say that there have been, I know there have been customer services had quite a few. I know there are, I believe there's a PUC complaint in the area. So I think there are, mine tend to be if it would come from a legislative complaint, and I have had some from, oh gosh, her name just in Wind Gap there, Ann Flood's office. And I've gotten a couple kind of in Monroe County for it. So yeah, and I think, I always say too that, that if it's not meeting your expectations, that's okay to let us know. It's not a personal thing. And certainly I know I push to really have eyes on all of this stuff so that we can improve, so that we're not just saying we're going to improve, but that we are able to. Okay,
Anything?
so number 4 here.
Yep.
We got. Okay, I live on Sandy Shore Drive. Okay, over the last 2.5 years, 26 power outages. So this one has an informal complaint with the PUC. So I can't, because it has an open complaint, I cannot speak to that one, but I can kind of speak to, they do have a question here about the circuit conversion project and a circuit line relocation project. Those were both slated for 2024 and were pushed to early part of 2025. And that was just running out of time with the number of outages that we did have in that area. So the work that we were hoping to get done is already begun planning for this year. So that will be added. They didn't remove them. They just weren't able to be completed in 2024.
And so, do you know in 2025 when they will be worked on or estimated completion?
No, second. Let me look and see if they let me know. You said one relocation was completed mid-December, and they have another relocation scheduled for 2025, and the conversion project is also early 2025. So out of 2 relocations and 1 conversion, 1 was completed and 2 are slated to be completed early this year.
But you don't know when this year, right?
I don't know. Because I could give you a time frame, but honestly, if you get a storm or something and then it gets pushed off with this, for the past 2 weeks, we hadn't done any planned shutdowns because of the weather with the cold. So in the winter, it's not realistic to give you a time that might actually keep to.
Okay.
Okay.
Any questions from the
So
supervisors?
next-
Okay, yeah, next, please.
Next one, interested in finding about liability in regards to appliances and such. We do not offer that any kind of liability for that. You can have that under your homeowner's insurance. According to PUC and our tariffs, we're only required to provide reasonable reliability service. And although we try to provide better, obviously in our area and with times, it's giving us room for improvement for sure. And you'll see that hopefully here in the next year or so. But as always, you can go through your homeowner's policy on that. If they are doing things for, if they're doing tree cleanup or something, and something happens to your property, you can contact MedEd about that. They do handle claims like that, but not for just loss of service.
Okay. Any questions from the supervisors? Okay, we can go on to the next one.
That one did have a little follow-up to notified maintenance on the lines. And that's just a good for folks to kind of take a look at their online account, update any information. Sometimes it's, you know, we might have an old phone number there, but you can kind of go in there too. They've updated that communications piece, so you can select which notifications you'd like to receive as well. So maybe you want text messages about outages. Maybe you want to know times for when something is or planned maintenance. You can select all of that now on the website. So I'll say that's a thing. If you aren't getting notified, check your phone numbers and communication numbers.
Okay.
For number 6, why is it people that live in the river are the ones to seem to lose the power? So that's a repeat, obviously, for being just so close to the river. It's a lot of trees, and that water gets saturated fast. And I'll say too, you know, we know for some of these, we say it might look like a blue sky days, but the winds gust lately when you have saturated ground. We saw a lot with that one storm in the fall there. I think you guys had, you know, it was closer to that substation. It was over 1,000 people out in your area, and it really is because those huge old trees that have that damp root ball just fall over, and they're really hard to get to and get out of the way. So.
Okay. Any questions?
Another one. Go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead, Ms. Lind.
All right. The next one is the same about compensation for timeout during outages. They can always try to seek it through their homeowners policy, but we do not provide that. Number 8, has MedEd's workforce in our area been shrinking in recent years? Compare workforce numbers. Does it explain the Portland's outages in 2024? I will say, has workforce been shrinking? I think everywhere skilled workforce has been shrinking. It was an area I worked in for a long time, just working with folks to kind of come into that. We do still have a full staff at Easton. It is one of our busier shops for sure. Some of the benefits there being we have a utility next door over at JCP&L, which when we do have larger storms, we can pull crews from if they don't also have larger storms. But we do have MedEd crews that we can pull, as well as Penelec crews from like Susquehanna County and that can come over to help. And we saw that with some of these storms where we did need, you know, we needed crews on some of those coming from Ohio, crews coming from West Virginia, and that to help with that. But we are always, we're always hiring. The rate case, the base rate case that we just settled does also include so that will happen over the next few years, looking to grow that number. So we are looking to grow it for sure.
Okay. Number 9.
Okay, number 9. Prefacing vicinity, substation on Jacoby Creek Road. Both outages December 22nd, again, preceded by loud explosion. Oh, okay, yep, that was, that's that Mount Bethel substation there, which serves Upper Mount Bethel, Lower Mount Bethel, Portland, parts of Bangor, and we had an insulator break and high winds. And so when that happens, that insulator breaks, you could see some arcing there that blew. And what that does for safety is shuts down all of those circuits. So you saw that large number of outages as well. And those are some safety protocols. We did have another outage from that substation earlier this year, which was a trip. We had to send the piece actually off, which is typically what we do. We send those pieces off to be analyzed to see how it failed, why it failed, things like that. So that cause was high wind, and it was just an insulator just smashed. So it is something I think we heard a lot of comments about that, and we recognize that is scary. It's not something we as laymen tend to know, like that doesn't look good. That's pretty much what you're thinking there. So that equipment then gets replaced, but the old equipment gets sent off to kind of look for reasons for that. We also identify in there some, we use that opportunity to check the other stuff as well there, identify kind of other old equipment and that, and really when you're in there, replacing what you can. And I think, we talked about that, the need for some of that, those projects in your area for sure to upgrade. You need, you have a project coming up here for new poles as well. You have a lot of poles that are at the end of their usable life. So it's going to be a lot of changes, I would say, over the next 2 to 3 years for your area for sure. Let me see, let me flip back over here. Okay. And some of that person also asked about the regular maintenance schedule. Yes, that we do inspect, and those are the times where we identify, and in between those inspections, things do fail, and that's when we often replace them. You see some of those poles, their usable life can be 50 plus years, or also in your area, we've had a lot of carpole accidents, which have taken out a lot of poles or kind of weakened some of that equipment. So those obviously get replaced sooner, but it is during those inspections. And I will say the inspections vary for, substations get inspected every month. Transformers, get inspected there over 6 months, to say that, those overhead wires are 5 years, underground too. So everything does have its own maintenance schedule that they do keep up on.
So just a quick question. Are you able to share your inspection reports with the township?
No, we don't share that. We do follow those. PUC keeps all that, and I believe people can do that, but we don't send those out.
Okay. Yeah, because there's one resident had reached out to me and is convinced that there's 9 miles of wiring here in the township that's so old and rotted, and seem that it may never be repaired, or it's going to be repaired, but years from now. So how do we go about that to work with you to say, there's a resident here who has information that there's 9 miles of wiring in the township that's old and rotted. Then we come to you and say, hey, can you check this out? How does that process work?
It can happen exactly like that. I mean, there are other smaller townships that Durham up in Bucks County does that a good deal. Their roadmaster or person will say, hey, Thea, if your guys are out and about, can you give this a look and make sure? Often for wires, they can look really, really awful and still pass inspection and still be okay. But it doesn't hurt, our folks to run out and give it a check. So, yeah, you can send those over to me and I can have somebody look at them. Also with that, if that has an associated address, I can see if it's part of that. It might be part of one of those LTIP programs for wire upgrades. So I could find from engineering as well.
Okay, yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, because they might have already identified it as needing replacing.
Okay. Any other questions from the supervisors? Okay, I know number 10 was a resident who was just telling his story. Any comments?
Yeah.
This is a home on River Road that they moved to in 2019.
River Road is due for some upgrades for sure. I'll find out too specifically about which of those projects for LTIP touch River Road. And I will say for River Road, I mentioned it's a weird thing, but there were carpool accidents, which I guess, if people are traveling that narrow thing late at night, that could explain that for sure. But it is its own interesting for sure. But yeah, I can check which of those touch River Road to let you know.
Okay.
I know that there's been a line with a tree on the line on River Road. Again, I don't know if it's a data or a power line, but it's been like that for a month. John, your mic isn't on.
That one is a data, that communication lines. That one actually, one of the legislative aides sent to me that they had seen it and sent it over to me and they looked at. So, and the PUC doesn't require communication wire companies to those if they still have service. So we do, because contact with it will disrupt service, but often they can have a tree resting on that without affecting service. So
It's touching the ground. Like the wire's actually touching the ground.
That's communication.
yeah.
Probably communication.
Yeah, it's an interesting kind of thing to see. And often, in those areas, some of that mapping is old, that they're not sure who actually owns those two or who's still actually connected, which poses a problem in those for sure, especially when they do lean. I saw, come back there the other week, I saw a number leaning well in.
Anything else, John?
No.
Okay, we can move on.
Okay, move on to number.
Good play.
Those
Cindy
communication
moving.
wires aren't that important, huh? Tree came down.
11. Well,
Wait.
Hey, Miss Lynn, can you hear us?
She just hit pause and ran to the bathroom.
Do you have her number, Nick?
Oh, there she is.
Hey, Miss Lynn, we can't hear you.
fine. Now you can't hear me?
Now we can hear you.
Still no?
Yep.
Now you can? Okay. And we're back.
Yeah, so we didn't
We're
hear
back.
what
Okay,
you
so-
said for the past 2
11.
minutes or so.
Number 11. Okay, getting all the power outages in our area under control. So it's really going to be, it's a lot of these LTIP projects, which are slated. It's finishing the ones from 2024, those two route location and the circuit conversions. And some of those, for those projects, are reclosers, which I mentioned. So they allow us to do switching, is shut off certain parts that allow, say, okay, we've isolated the issue. It's just these guys, so we can turn these other back on. So that will help for a lot of people where you were seeing 2-3 hour delays even after a tree being down. The majority of those people would experience, a minute or two. Normally within 10 or so minutes, they're able to provide switching for those. So you'll see a lower number of large outages and a lower number of customers affected. 5 of those upgrade projects are for wire, so to upgrade, the overhead wires and that, and then 1 for underground as well. So, and that's kind of in some of those networked areas that we talked about. So, I mean, it's a lot of projects. In addition, what came with the tree trimming within our base rate case, and also an increased number of linemen. I think we have a really great operations director here in Easton. He covers the entire kind of Eastern Med-Ed territory, but really pushing to get more money in this area. And just saying, hey, if that's more tree money, great. If that's more wire money, great. Just really putting it in to upgrade a lot of this. Normally, it's kind of say, hey, guys, we understand this, but you have had a lot of long outages, and we understand that. So So it is something we're definitely working on.
Okay, any questions from the supervisors? Okay, and then we have our last one.
Okay. Broken procedure for reporting a billing issue and waiting for your team to respond. Have any concerns about being compensated for incorrect billing? For incorrect billing, it really depends. It's not an area, without seeing that bill, it's not an area that I work a lot in for our billing people. But if someone has a billing issue and they're not seeking help, send it to your township manager, and we can, or often, sometimes people come in through legislative inquiries. We do check to make sure, we want obviously to call and talk to a customer service person, but if you feel like you're not getting an adequate response, that's what we are here to kind of help escalate those for you. But definitely call first, and then too, we can always do it. When we get involved, it adds some steps, and it sometimes takes longer, but we are able to help residents resolve that, and we don't want you to have to get to run around there.
Okay, any questions?
So it's my personal, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Any questions from the supervisors? Okay, just one question, and then I'll open it up. If anybody here in attendance tonight, we can, Miss Lynn, do you have like another 15 minutes for us?
Can you say that again?
Do you have like another 15, 20 minutes for us for resident questions?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay. Joe's got about questions that are going to take you to 10:30, I think. No, I'm just kidding. Just a quick question for me. So when residents reach out to me, or the other supervisors can jump in as well, it typically comes from certain areas like River Road, Slateford. I've had a couple from Green Tree. Can we reach out to you and say, hey, we've had residents in our last couple of power outages that are really calling from this area, let's say River Road. Can you guys send a team out there and inspect, what may be going on there? Can we do that?
So they won't do it if there's not an associated outage. They won't do it if there's not an obvious. If it's, hey, we've had an outage, a couple outages on River Road. What I would typically do is I can request a reliability audit. So it's not our field techs running out there, but it's our engineering ability. And then they would kind of look, see if there were, things that were anomalies on that. And then they can kind of have that. So yes, there is a process for that to kind of say, hey, this circuit's giving us a lot of trouble lately. Is there a reason? Does it maybe need to be looked at? But yes, then they could reach that conclusion and say, hey, let's go inspect this circuit again.
Okay, thanks.
But
Any other questions from supervisors? Nick, go ahead. Yeah.
Hi, Thea. I want to thank you for coming, Thea. I appreciate, virtually. But I had a couple of questions. I gave you a call, but I don't know if that's when you got hurt. But I just wanted to ask you a question about, you have different contractors that come through here. This year, it's Nelson. And we always work with them. We accommodate them. They were allowed to park at our East End Industries and use our bathrooms, what have you. But they do help us a lot. And this year, Nelson, again, they're helping us with some trees that we can't get to that would cost us money to take down. They just took 2 trees down for us on Foxcap that were hanging over the wires, and we couldn't. Yeah. And the other one question that we have, because our guys are all out there, our firemen, everybody, and they'll mention to us the bad trees that are out there besides the residents. But there's trees that were marked last year by your prior contractor. I know you switch up whatever the bid is. We just had a question. I don't know if you can answer me, but Will Nelson be taking those trees down, or are they looking for different trees? Are they working on a different schedule? I don't know exactly how it works with Med Ed. I know you have a forester. I've been in contact with some of your foresters. To be honest, I've had not much success, just being forthright with you, but the guys that do work for you, for Nelson and the other companies, they will accommodate us as best they can, because I know they're very busy as they are. But do you have an answer to that? Because there are trees that were marked last year, especially on Orchard, that are not taken down yet, and I don't know if Nelson's going to be taking them down, or they're working on their own trees that they've marked.
I think I did talk with the forester about those, and for some, I know, she said some were marked because for that circuit relocation, if they were marked and then the circuit's going to be moved, then they might not need to remove those if they're going to move those poles. So that can be one issue in there. And the other for that, some of those, like up on that Fox Gap, they're waiting. They have to get the trackman up there, which is that, like, it's kind of like the tank kind of things that it can go over the terrain, and waiting for that ground and some things to freeze. So I think they were going to try and head up there last week, but didn't get it. So looking for, again, frozen ground for some of those up in that area. I think they're hoping to take just a good amount of those trees up by Fox Gap, because we have had so many issues there with trees taking down just different parts of that and the time that it takes to manually patrol that line there, and getting, that's a 911 cell tower there as well. So it's been, that circuit has been quite an issue. So I believe on some of that, they're planning some relocation, and for some they will be coming back to take some of those trees.
Okay. Another question I have is, I know we spoke before the meeting, and actually on the phone, about River Road, from Driftstone to Tuscarora. That area there needs tons of mitigation with trees, and I get it. I know we can't get to every tree that we can, but for whatever reason, I don't know what what Med Ed did with the circuits there, but now when a tree goes down there, a pole just falls, a transformer falls out of the sky, the whole town is out now, where it didn't happen before. Yeah. So I don't know if they switched the circuits. I mean, I live the furthest away. I'm next to the Delaware Water Gap, what is it? The forest grid, yeah. And I'm like furthest away from there, and like our electric will go out from a transfer down on River Road, when it used to never happen. Just recently, it just started happening that way. And obviously, I'm not just talking about myself. The whole community is out, and it's just kind of strange why all of a sudden they did that.
It's been taking them out, and again, because they patrol that area by a lot of times by foot, because they just can't get some of the vehicles in there anymore. But it has been definitely taking more of those out. So I'll have to see if you'll have an address number on River Road. I can have then for reliability to look and get you again more information on which upgrades are going to be specific to that area.
Okay. Just a footnote, if you want, that area down there, Tuscarora last year had 19 times that the electric went out in 1 year, and this year it's already 6. And it's a big community, and they have a daycare center there, and kids and everything. So, and Driftstone is a business that during the summertime and everything, they need their electric, and I get it. Everybody else needs it too in the community, but it just seems like that area is controlling the whole township for some reason. So I don't know if you're missing my point. Is that it never happened where that area, when it went down, didn't affect the whole township. Now, when things are going down, you're doing some kind of mitigation with the wiring, whatever you're doing with the transformers, switches, Now the whole community is getting down, affecting everybody. And of course, when something goes down, we want to kind of mitigate it where it's centrally located and try to get those people up or running as fast as we can, which we have no control of. I'm saying we, but you, Med Ed, would have to do that. But I'm just, if you can mention that to your supervisors, whoever you're,
Yeah.
the people that are in control of that, why they did that, and it just doesn't make sense to the people in this community. I get calls all the time about it.
Yeah.
If you could just bring that up to the higher authorities, and maybe they could rethink of what they did.
Yeah, that it definitely seems strange that you're having more outages, that more folks are affected now than before. So it definitely is something they can look into.
Okay, that's all I got, John.
Thanks,
Thank
Nick.
you, Thea.
All right, I'll open it up to the public. Or before that, Mayor, do you have any questions? Yeah, please.
Hi, my name is Heather Fisher, and I'm the mayor over in Portland. I want to thank the supervisors for having someone from Ed come in here, and thank you for taking time to speak with us today. I feel like we don't have really any more answers than we did before. I think it's information that we probably already knew about, but I would really like Nick's question addressed on why the situation is completely different now than what it has been in past years. Especially Portland, you know, we're a small town, but we are a small borough, but we saw very few power outages. Even when Upper Mount Bethel was out, Portland consistently had power. And now, you know, the number of power outages is just, you know, unacceptable. I think we also have a lot of people, including myself, that work remotely. So when I accepted my position and I signed my job offer letter, I had power and I had, you know, dependable internet, and now I'm in a meeting with executives and my power just goes out. So I think that's also unacceptable at this point. So I think we kind of need more answers on, you know, the next year or two is just really not acceptable at this point. I also had a question on the notifications. So it used to be kind of reliable. If we got a notification to our text, like it would be up in an hour or two. It used to be that we kind of got power back within a general area of that time. Now it just seems like they send them out every 2 hours just to kind of stop people from calling and asking questions until the next 2 hours. So I would like to know when those alerts are going to become more reliable, because right now we don't even need them. They're irrelevant.
That I can kind of I'll speak to that second part to start with the alerts, because I agree. Can you say that is something I feel like they set it's a global ETR and it just keeps expiring and getting set out and that. So I did take that as a note. That is something they're working on the IT side to kind of be able to add better information there. That mapping system did get updated last year. It's updated every 15 minutes, so it is pretty far advanced from what was there before, but I think there are still some updates there as well that can happen. As far as what specific alerts you're getting to know, I know those ETR ones are the most difficult when they're kind of set out at that time and they just keep expiring. Often though, there's not a way to know until they're out there for your areas. Like I mentioned, it is a lot of patrol by foot, so they could get out there, service tech could find it in a half hour, but if it's a tree down, they still have to patrol the rest of that line just in case there are 2 trees down, which there are. So it is just a tedious task in that case, which is why we put in for all these upgrades, these LTIP projects that would allow us to not spend so much time kind of investigating where these outages are and what's causing them. I think one of the things that I can do from my side is when engineering sets the timeline for these projects is give you guys an update, so I'm not just saying, hey, these are approved for next year, but that you would actually know when those are slated to be done, and we could communicate that with you.
Yeah, that would be great. And just the process because I think sometimes people look at our communities and they think they're so small and they think that we don't have, a lot of people behind us to push, but that's actually not the case. We do have a lot of people, our representatives, and we have a new congressman that is going to be willing to push. So, we might be small, but, we're worth as much time and effort as anyone else. So just to understand that process, if we're filing a complaint with the First Energy or Med Ed, we start there and then we go to the PUC, right? And then from there we can have our state representatives and our congressional representatives kind of back us up. Is that the process?
I would say, yeah, start with us. And for you, since, in your role, you can reach out to me as well. Like I said, I'm not customer facing, but I am here as the liaison for, for the EMA, for the municipalities and that. So if you have issues with that, yeah, go ahead and let me know if your constituents, if your residents have issues. Because you know what, in these areas, and if, like you mentioned along road, it's not just one, it's not affecting just one person, it is affecting a lot of people. So I think I am excited to see, in my time finally, like kind of harping at them to get some updates in this area. I'm excited to see it, but I do agree with you. I'm kind of on them about, okay, but I want dates too, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't want this
Concrete
to go out in
information
the ether
is what we need at this point.
not follow up. So definitely I can provide that with you as well.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Mayor.
Sure.
Anyone else comment? Yeah, come on up, please.
Okay, I'm Rosemary Matson. I'm from Sandy Shore Drive. I was not the one that filed a complaint about all the outages.
If you could just talk into the mic, that would be great.
Your name again, please?
Rosemary Matson. I live on Sandy Shore Drive. I'm not the one that did the complaints before, but I'll tell you, I have a neighbor that is keeping a list of all the outages, time-wise, dates, the whole 9 yards, because at one point it was like every other day we were going off, getting power out. So, my husband is sickly. He uses the equipment at home. I've had 8 strokes in the last year, and it affected my eyesight, so therefore I can't see to go around. Now, all my surrounding neighbors are getting generous because they say they're so you guys are undependable. But I can't afford $10,000, $12,000. And I don't feel that I should have to, because this power outage has been going on. It's more in the last couple of years than it's ever been, and I've been here 36 years. So, I lost my other paper. Wait 1 second. Okay, so first off, when we have a power outage, we call in right away. Okay, your messages, it's all garbled, it cuts you off, and then you have to hang up and start all over again, and you get the same thing. So I think that needs to be upgraded for you guys to do that. And then as far as sending out texts, I don't very seldom ever get a text. I might get it once in a 6-hour power outage. I might get one text. But I think, let me just see what my other note here says. So, but and then there's a thing that says that if you need medical reasons to have your power on, that they'll work on that address first. However, that's really unfair, because down there on Sandy Shore, there's a lot of older people that everybody needs power. So, we have a generator, obviously, but not a Generex, which I don't feel that we should be responsible to pay. So how about a courtesy thing where, and you guys know when the power's out, how about a credit to your billing or something on that line? Because, we're losing power so much, it's ridiculous. That's pretty much all I got to say.
Did you hear her question, Miss Lind?
Not really. Could someone paraphrase it for me?
So she had a question about whether residents can obtain some sort of credit if there's a power outage. Did I get the question right?
Yeah, it's not, if you're looking at 1 or 2 hours is one thing, but it's...
Yeah, if it's a 1 to 2 hour power outage, that's one thing. But if it's a 24 to 48 hour or a few days, is there any sort of credit that MedEd might consider?
Yeah, there's not a program for that.
Right, but
for-
our bill keeps
for
going up.
without.
But our bill
sorry?
keeps going up, so, I mean,
I missed
and
that.
that's a little crazy, I think.
Her bill keeps going up.
Yeah.
Oh, do you have her? I mean, I can always, I can look at her thing and see if the bill keeps going up. I mean, yes, the bills do keep going up.
know.
Everybody's bill keeps going up, it seems. And a lot of that, customers can do the PA power search if they would like to look at options for that. That's run by the state. Look at different rates. The rate to compare changes twice a year. So.
Yeah, well, and I don't know how true this is, but I was told that over the summer, MedEd paid people overtime to work these power lines and stuff. And then I just heard at church
was that one?
yesterday that MedEd's trying to tie
MedEd
into the
paid
place down here outside
people
of Portland.
overtime to do more work.
So, I mean, there's a lot of rumors and stuff going around, but,
We do, yes.
yeah.
We do frequently.
Well, yeah,
Yeah. Do
you have a lot
do
of
we pay
unhappy
overtime?
people.
Yes, we do pay. Our line workers are offered overtime as part of their contract to work additional hours.
I'm just going to make a small statement. My sister lives in the bayous down in Louisiana. Okay, she's never without power. She said the lines has been 6 hours. And these guys have to go in the swampland, fight off snakes, alligators, crocodiles, and whatever else is down there. And they're never out of power over 6 hours. So I'm not quite understanding how, what the issues are here. But that's really all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Anyone else? Joe, come on up. The jiggle.
Hello. Your name's Thea?
Thea, yes.
Thea.
Thea?
Yeah.
Yes. Joe Torrey, Institute Road. Hey, Thea, I need to ask you a small favor. You might need a pencil and paper to do this. Would you mind?
Wait, say that. Hang on. Let me turn my mic. All right. Say that again.
I got to ask you a small favor. It's about an outage.
for it.
No, it's not an outage yet, but it's about a pole safety. I have the address and the pole number. It's on Lake Mincy Road. The reason I'm bringing this up is because today I come across the bus driver. She had like maybe 10 kids left that she had to take and drop off, but those kids weren't allowed to go down the road without supervision. She couldn't go down there. So here's what I'm asking. There was a car pole accident on Friday. It's still there today. It's house 1364.
Liz?
And I have the poll number if you want to write it down. You ready?
Go for it.
Ready to copy?
Yep.
70
I'm ready.
70994-58464. You want me to repeat it?
Slow down.
No, 70994-58464.
Yes, that's correct.
Got it.
Can you get somebody out there to fix it? Because for safety-wise,
Let me see what's.
it's a delicate pole to be touched, but I know they could do it. It's just safety
let me,
hazard, really, right now.
And you said
Nobody
it was
can
one of
ride
those
down the
carpool
road.
accidents?
The road's blocked off. Right by Lake Mincy. Lake Mincy Road, where it starts at Lake Mincy, and all the way down to Bangor Vane Road, where North Bangor Sub is. It's all blocked off.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, I'll send it over to them.
Yeah, I'm sure they
Have
know,
them
but
see where.
maybe you could speed things up. Okay?
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Yes.
Full disclosure here, I'm a resident of Portland. I've lived there all my
Can I have
life.
your name, please?
Kay Bucci.
Say that again.
K Bucci, B-U-C-C-I.
Thank you.
I've lived in Portland all my life, and never did we see such terrible service from Med Ed as we've seen in the last couple of years. The word on the street is that Med Ed hasn't been replacing the people who have retired or been fired or died. I don't know how accurate that information is, but there appears to be a big problem here, and it's called deferred maintenance. Because everything you say is, oh, we're going to fix it next week, or oh, we're going to fix it next year, or in 2 years, or 3 years, or tomorrow, or hey, that's called deferred maintenance, and that's what we're experiencing here, and that's why Portland had 8 power outages last year because of deferred maintenance. The River Road story, that's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's not your fault. I appreciate that you're here, but they need to send the one from Ohio over here to answer questions. It's a big disappointment that we can't depend on Med Ed. We always could, and now we can't. So I hope that because of this meeting and the other love fest you had down in Easton with the Easton City somebody, the article in the newspaper was like, oh, well, we're going to do this next, and we're doing this, we'll soon be doing that. Why haven't you done it already? Especially for the people on River Road. Good grief, it's outrageous. But just send our regards to the people in Ohio. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Yeah, come on out. And we'll do one more question after this gentleman, and then you can be on your way, Miss Lind.
You're fine.
Thanks.
Hi, Anthony Kaiser, 25 Lenape Trail. Just simple question. How many power outages have you had this year? Personally?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking you, yes.
I'm not sure. I don't count them, to be honest.
Well, we do, and we don't feel like we're being heard. We're paying customers. You tell us the work's all being deferred. You won't credit the accounts, and we just have to deal with it. We have no other choice. It's frustrating, and it doesn't seem like anyone cares. I can understand very hardworking line workers, difficult conditions, cold weather, but this is just unacceptable, the way we're being treated as customers. And we have no choice, and we're told there's nothing we can do about it. And I just don't understand why. That's it.
Okay, and I think the conversation tonight is a step in the right direction. We're opening up communication a lot more. Miss Lind, by coming here tonight and appearing in front of us is a good step in the right direction. But as you can see, many of our residents and our neighboring communities are upset about the situation. Last question, Ron. Mark, do you have a question? Yeah. All right, 2 questions, and then that'll be it. Go ahead, Ron.
Ron Angle, $52 million highway. It's pretty evident people are tired of not getting taken care of here. But on a more important question, somebody was saying about their rates. Maybe you could explain, it used to be Med Ed, or First Energy, by the way, and I won't ask you buy, sell, or hold with the stock, by the way, but First Energy used to be Jersey Central, Penn Electric, and Med Ed. You've now taken in some other outfits, and you're paying different rates to buy the power that comes through the grid. Could you explain to the people here what effect that has had on their bills that have went up?
Can you kind of phrase what do you mean? What effect that has had?
I know you're.
You mean that we're part of the larger First Energy?
What I'm saying to you is, you're now getting power across the grid from different places, and you're paying more for that power than you're generating. And consequently, the bills have went up here for many of these people. We all already know about the bad service. Could you explain to them why their bills have went up, and in particular, where you're buying the power and what you're paying?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So we're not a generator, so we do purchase power. So that's part of the PJM market. So they set the cost for that. So often for that, it's not a First Energy set cost. You know, it's what we're paying to acquire the energy. And then some of the First Energy costs that you might see on your bill would be, you know, some of those distribution charges, and that part is what would be to pay for the maintenance and things like that. That price to compare I talked about earlier is the one that fluctuates, that's set for utilities.
That's not, so far you haven't given me the answer.
December, it might change again another time of the year, and that's...
I realize you're probably not in the finance end of it, but you still haven't gave the answer about why their bills have went up. And frankly, there's a reason why their bills have went up. So let me make it a generic question. Can you explain why their bills went up, why they got lousy service?
The bill goes up because those costs go up. So those are a set cost that are, you know, we said we purchase through the PJM market, and then that rate to compare. So we're not making money off of those. So the bills are going up because those costs are going up. That's not something First Energy is making money off of.
Well,
there's
probably a couple people in the room here right now who could answer my question better than you've done so far, quite frankly. I'm sure one of my supervisors could give me a better answer than what you've gave me. But thanks for your attempt.
All right, Mark, last question. Last question, Ms. Lind.
Go ahead.
Mark Metzger, 114 Scenic Court. I don't know that you're going to be able to answer this question, but I want to get this out. If our power demand suddenly increases by orders of magnitude in the near future, are you the only supplier to the area? And if so, will you be able to modernize the entire township's infrastructure for electricity? And could you tell me about how long it would take to achieve that? Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, those typically, you know, the grid is in place to support growth. When customers come on and they have a demand, then we can build. Typically, we would build to suit. We're kind of seeing that in Easton with some of the developers that, you know, they are essentially paying to help upgrade services to meet that demand. But yes, it can be a big win for a community to get a larger project like that to help upgrade. Mm-hmm.
Okay, we just have one follow-up.
Ray Higgins, 580 Centerville. We've had a couple planned outages that have happened here in town now. I think we've had 2 or 3 planned outages. Are they able to be planned where they're not in the middle of a workday where you're shutting down businesses and on sub-zero temperature days? Because basically you're shutting down the heating units to the homes, and we're at, you know, 0. And what is planned is 2 or 4 hours turns into 6 or 8 hours, and by the time that 8 hours is up, we're at 35 degrees in our business.
Yeah, I think that's something we have kind of, you know, as a result of some of these conversations, you know, the last couple of weeks we've canceled all planned outages, which does defer that work, but I think it's important in those sub-zero days to not have customers out for multiple hours for a planned outage if we can control it. But yes, if there are, you know, if I see a number of accounts affected, you know, or if you know when it is coming through and somebody says, you can give me a call, and we can often work to kind of move that. Sometimes we can't do the time of day, can't change, but we could change to a day that's maybe, you know, a slower day, or, you know, less likely. Sometimes they can even do those on weekends, which
it's just tough on the businesses.
Well. So there is some flexibility, with planned outages.
Is that something that can get planned with the supervisors or the township before it happens?
Yeah, we can work with Ms. Lind.
Let me know, because they're supposed to send me all their planned outages ahead of time before they send the notification out. So sometimes if we work together, we can do that before customers are notified.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate you coming.
All right, Miss Lind, we want to thank you so much for your time tonight. We appreciate you going out of your way for us. And you've heard our concerns, and we hope we can continue the relationship. And as more residents down the line, if we have other concerns or issues or complaints, that you don't mind that we come to you and just let you know what's going on from our end.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I hear the concerns, and they're valid concerns. And I think I appreciate people coming and taking the time tonight to come and let us know happy. And I agree, there's a lot of work to be done here, and I'll work to keep you updated as we get some actual dates for that stuff for you.
Okay, that'd be great. All right, Miss Lind. Well, thank you so much, and have a good night. And
Thank you, guys.
Hope you feel better soon.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll get right back into the rest of the township business. 8:27 p.m. And Becky, we're going to get to you in just 1 second. We're going to do the Haddad and Nordstrom resolution.
Well,
We'll get to that.
Take care of the action item first.
All right. Let's do the action item first. Sorry. This is Jacob Smith, resolution 2025-02. Jacob Smith became Eagle Scout, or will be formally made an Eagle Scout in February. Part of his project was the slate belt, the baseball fields right next to us, next door. He worked on the sign there. He worked on the dugouts. I mean, really brought the community together and did a lot to make the baseball field overall look just fantastic. So this is a resolution that Jacob Smith of Boy Scout Troop 36 has fulfilled all the requirements necessary to obtain the rank of Eagle Scout, the highest award the Boy Scouts of America can bestow, and represents great sacrifice and tremendous effort on the part of this young man. Whereas the Board of Supervisors of Upper Mount Bethel Township, Northampton County, Pennsylvania, recognizes Jacob Smith's level of achievement and responsibility by these accomplishments. So can I get a motion to adopt Resolution 2025-02?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
No, I just want to say, John, knowing Jacob's parents and Jacob himself, I had the honor of coaching Jacob in baseball, and his father is also an Eagle Scout, so this is a big accomplishment for this family, and I wish them the best.
Yeah, that's fantastic. They're a great family. So, okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. 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 Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. I know we've had. Is it Mr. Haddad has been? Nick is online.
Mr. Babbitt.
Oh, all right. All right. So let's just do the Haddad and Nordstrom resolution. Ron?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The two resolutions that have been prepared deal with the township's decision to rescind or withdraw from the grant applications that were approved in 2023 with respect to county conservation open space funds, which the township was going to match. The reason for the withdrawal is that the county expects that the Haddad and Nordstrom properties will conform to new guidelines that have been submitted for what are called the livable landscapes programs, and not the 2019 guidelines upon which the Haddad and Nordstrom agreements were signed. The changes are such that Heritage Conservancy, who is normally our partner with respect to taking over and maintaining and being the administrator, if you will, of these conservation easements and preservation of open space, they're not willing to get involved because of the changes. So the township has requested me to prepare two resolutions to withdraw the applications and agreements with respect to Haddad and Nordstrom, and then also agree to have Heritage Conservancy become involved with those two projects based upon the prior guidelines. Now, I have not done the resolutions to allow the Heritage Conservancy to become involved because I did not want to be presumptuous and believe that the township would grant the withdrawals of Haddad and Nordstrom. So I've done just those two resolutions, and they are before you for consideration and action. If they get approved, then I will do two additional resolutions to put Heritage Conservancy into the mix, but quite frankly, I need to know a little bit more about that in order to draft those resolutions. But we're not there yet. We have to first, this is step one, that's step two. So that's where we are.
So step one for tonight, what do you need a motion for?
A motion to approve 2 resolutions, which I have prepared to rescind and or withdraw from the county program with respect to Haddad and Nordstrom under the 2024 guidelines, which they expect the township and these properties to apply.
That being said, Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we pass the resolutions as just outlined by Mr. Karasak.
Okay, is there a second? Any discussion from the supervisors? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Nick. So we can.
Do you want to have a motion for the next 2?
Yeah, we'll have to make a motion, Mr. Chair, that Mr. Karasak
Could prepare them?
prepare a new resolution to have the Heritage Foundation be taking care of the financial backing for the Haddon and Nordstrom properties.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, now we go to,
Translate that.
Mr. Chair, just as a point of clarity, what is that resolution number?
We have to do it.
Okay.
yeah, Cindy will get that for you. Okay, next up is Planned Slate Belt Multi-Municipal Plan. And thank you for coming out as always, and still smiling. So anyone want to open up the discussion or any questions for our representatives?
So, Mr. Chair, this was tabled, so the resolution has already been, I guess, read at the meeting, and in matter of passing it now. We tabled it so supervisors could have had a better chance to ask questions and better understand the municipal plan. And this evening, we have Ms. Bradley and Mr. Dottie here to answer any questions. So I don't know if I should make the motion. We can get a second and any discussion that would be
Yeah,
relevant.
you can go ahead and make a motion.
I make a motion that resolution number 2024-30, Planned Slate Belt Municipal, Multi-Municipal Plan be adopted.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, we'll open it up for discussion. Do you have a question?
I have a bunch of questions.
Okay. I have one question I just want to ask real quick. If we decide to go forward and pass this resolution and become part of the Slate Belt, the multi-municipal plan, what if along the way from Upper Mount Bethel Township we don't feel it's working out? What is the township's remedy in that instance? Yes, please.
Sure, that's a great question. You just leave. You go in by resolution, you go out by resolution. It's that simple. And then you would have to create your own comprehensive plan.
And go to the meetings once a month?
I'm sorry?
I didn't hear what you said at the end.
You would have to create your own comprehensive plan, though,
Yeah.
or fall under the Lehigh Valley Planning Commissions. But we don't think that you should just fall under ours. You should have,
Yeah.
one.
Okay. John?
Well, I feel like I'm going to be taking the floor for a little while, so if any other supervisors have questions or anything like that, no?
Go for it.
Okay. What will be the total cost for Mount Bethel now that Plainfield and Lower Mount Bethel has left the plan?
There's no change in your cost to the plan.
So it's $4.60 a person?
I can't remember exactly what was agreed to because I got it almost 5 years ago now, but it was something along those lines. Yeah.
So you don't have
And
any-
you guys have already paid the majority of it.
I think we paid 7,500,
Yeah, I think so.
and
And I can email you with exact numbers tomorrow. I wasn't sure, I didn't know you were gonna ask about the cost of the plan.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we did have conversations.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about
Unfortunately,
the next
I was always at work when you
Yeah, I know,
called.
I'm sorry. We tried.
So that cost is just under, what, 30,000?
Yeah, and we were able to get funding from Community Action Agency for the Lehigh Valley and Northampton County to offset the cost of the development of this multi-municipal comprehensive plan as well. So that took down the cost to the individual municipalities, and then the individual municipalities agreed on a cost factor based on population. You have the most people.
Okay. So, yeah, I in the books, we definitely have the most people.
Yep.
So if my math is correct, it's $31,280 to be a part of this comprehensive plan. And that is including the $7,500 that we paid already, correct?
Again, I'd have to get you the total number. I didn't know you were going to ask about the cost of the comp plan itself. I thought you were this morning, I thought you were going to ask me about the next phase of it, if you would want to go into that.
Okay.
So sorry, I misunderstood that this morning.
I believe
But you guys haven't assigned
three
a
meetings
fund
ago when you were here, you stated that a comprehensive plan is roughly $50,000?
Yeah, to do an individual one is to do it per the state requirements, all the analysis, about 50,000. Sometimes it can go higher if you want more. Some communities do, some communities want less. You really can't do it well for under that.
I talked to Jennifer Summers of Lower Mount Bethel, and they just got a full comprehensive plan for, they received a grant for $10,000, so they paid $10,000 for a full comprehensive plan.
And why don't you tell her, Jennifer is a supervisor.
She's the manager.
The township
Jen
manager,
Smathers,
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's the manager.
Yeah. Well, you also have to understand that they already did their zoning and their official map, so they already did the data analytics work first before they went into the plan.
Well, that
So
map,
that's just different.
the
And
map
I don't
they-
know about the quality of that plan, but I can assure you that you have a very high quality plan in front
well,
of you.
the
And you
map
guys
was
already
an
signed
additional
agreement.
5,000 on top of that. I didn't include the map because that was kind of
Yeah.
optional for them,
The map is not optional.
for us.
No. You are required to have an official map in your township. Every community is.
So it says that we will need a consultant, correct?
We are your consultant.
So what is that extra cost to the township?
For the plan that you have in front of you?
I know over the phone you said that most of that was covered by grant, but not all of it.
Okay, I want to understand what you're asking about. Is it the comprehensive plan that you're looking to potentially adopt tonight? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
You
If we
already
were,
have a agreement with the group of communities, with us, with Northampton County and Community Action Committee for the Lehigh Valley, that is already signed. We are your consultants for that comprehensive plan. So
Okay.
whatever was in that agreement is all that is charged, period.
okay, so that's, if any rezoning or anything like that were to happen, would it be an additional charge?
That's another phase, right? Like, you're required by state law to have a comprehensive plan, or you have to use ours. Ours is at a regional level, so that's just too zoomed out for you, right? So now
Please
you're in the
correct me if I'm wrong, but
multi-municipal.
as I was reading, they're recommended, they're not mandatory, a comprehensive plan.
They are mandatory under state statute. That is, it's not an option.
Is that true?
They're mandatory, but there's, if you don't do it, you're on double secret probation.
So there's no recourse to not.
I mean, I don't know if there's no recourse. I've not seen it in my 48 years of anyone filing any action for not having a comprehensive plan. I've never seen it.
They typically use it against you in development suits that you may enter into because you're not consistent with state statute and having a plan reviewed every 10 years.
I've spoke to quite a few people, and I've heard, oh, you need to redo it every 10 years, it's 15 years, it's 20 years. So I'm like, all right, how actually often? And then I was reading that it isn't really mandatory.
It is mandatory under state statute, and it's every 10 years. I've been doing this for 25 years. I
Every 10
teach
years.
this. I'm a certified instructor on the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code, and I can assure you, and I will send you the legal citations tomorrow morning if you want them. It is 10 years, and it is required. Or you have to use the county comprehensive plan, which is future LV, which is 2 counties, which is zoomed way out. That would be your default plan, and that does not work for you. You guys have more complicated issues than, bigger.
So when was the last comprehensive plan for Mount Bethel done?
Over 10 years ago.
I think 1990
1990?
Maybe.
So 25 years.
or 2000. Okay, so 2000, still 24 years
20,
ago.
yeah, 24 years. What is, so the length of time for, so the length of time for this comprehensive plan is 10 years?
Correct.
I read in there that you are going to be presenting a mechanism for resolving disputes. Do you have any idea of what that mechanism might be, or what disputes you might plan on encountering within this plan?
So that is also part of the state statute that you guys would agree, if there was a dispute, how to resolve it. There is a partner document that should have been provided, actually it was provided to you. It's an intermunicipal cooperative agreement and how you guys would manage any conflict that you may have. It's a very pretty simple agreement, and there's a couple of key things that I think are important for everyone to hear. First one is that each municipality, so Upper Mount Bethel in your case, shall, which means it's required, retain its own planning commission and zoning hearing board. Each participating municipality retains the right to adopt and administer its own individual zoning ordinance and zoning map. Subdivision and land development powers shall only be exercised by the municipality, which is you, in which the property where the approval is sought. Under no circumstances shall a subdivision or land development applicant be required to undergo more than one municipal approval process. So everyone retains their authority. It just basically means that you have some shared common goals that will help you in obtaining support, funding for things like road improvements, if you need to work cooperatively on any other sorts of infrastructure or other needs that you have. It gives you ability to apply for state grants. They always ask, if you're in a multi-municipal plan, you get extra credit for that, which means your application goes up in the process. So it provides a lot of things that allow you to work together, but you give up no authority. That is very important. In fact, that was hammered out before anybody ever agreed to plan. In fact, I had recommended that that is the way you should proceed. I think it's very important to honor the structure of Pennsylvania local government and your rights and your authorities. And all the communities felt that way as well, that were part of it at the time when we put it together, and they still feel that way now. And I think that's important.
Okay. There's a large portion of that that says revitalizing and repairing dilapidated buildings.
Mm-hmm.
I know that this applies to many of the boroughs,
Yep.
but who would cover that cost? Would it be a shared cost?
Okay, so property rights are paramount in America, right? And so basically it was the idea of supporting where each community finds that of value to them, to your individual community, that you would support whoever owned that property in that. Support could be, you can't force someone to do that unless you have a code issue and you have a property maintenance code adopted and someone would violate that. So it's more of that you're, cheering for people to continue to maintain their properties, work on them, and to keep them to a standard that the township finds acceptable. It's not saying someone else must repair that property or you must repair your property unless it would be a threat to the public health, safety, and welfare, in which you would already have a property maintenance code that would cover that, and your code enforcement team would, or persons would go out and work with that person to get that done.
Okay. If I'm to understand that answer correctly, it would rely on the borough itself to repair its own structures if need arises.
Correct.
Okay.
And clearly the individual property owners too, because the
Yes,
boroughs own a lot of property.
I was just thinking if a larger section that is maybe designated, rezoned, or something like that were to change, I didn't want us to cover some of the cost of another area. Just
No, you wouldn't have to do that. You could tell them no anyway, because you retain all your authority, and they probably wouldn't ask you.
okay. Septic has become a large issue with some boroughs, namely areas of Portland, Bangor, Rosetto with their lawsuits. How does Mount Bethel fit into the septic issue of the multi-municipal plan?
Okay, on-lot well and septic systems, or sewer, like the
We don't have sewer.
right, well, you could though, right? And you know, that's part of it. So, you guys don't have to address their concerns. I think that's important. There's larger issues at play with really what's happened, and we see this actually all across the Lehigh Valley, to be quite honest with you. I see it up where I live. You could draw a line across and you would hit my house. I live basically same type of area, but on the other side of the Lehigh Valley. When you get a lot more growth, people have a lot of wells and septic, and they don't necessarily maintain them, and there's a lot of issues related to that. But more is more, right? So you're going to have more issues related to that, and the communities are going to have to address that one at a time. The issue with septic is interesting, because at some point, sometimes the state gets involved in that, and then that makes the situation more difficult. But a comprehensive plan would only basically say, like, you should try to take care of your own house first, right? And where you want to establish or to improve public systems where they exist, like parts of Portland and some other locations in the Slate Belt, that you would have a plan for that, an individual plan for that meets that state standard.
Well, we have been talking about updating our 537 plan, and currently it's in a static pattern. Would you be involved, being a consultant, in any renewal of a 537 or creation of a 537 plan?
If you asked us to be a partner in that, we would be as your county planning agency. We would not necessarily be involved in the development of the plan unless you asked us to sit on a committee, which some communities do for various things. We do have to review it under state law and provide advisory guidance of how it fits in with the county comprehensive plan, but it's advisory. We do think that you should look at your 537 plan when you're ready.
Is there any municipality in here, be it Bangor, East Bangor, Penn Argyl, Portland, Rosetto, us, Washington, or Wind Gap, that are not using you as a consultant?
No, that was the idea, that everybody do it together. So you could have like a common set of overarching goals, because really a comp plan is a general plan, right? And then you're going to have your specific laws that govern your specific needs within that. So it just sets a core set of values together, and then it gives you that option to have flexibility in zoning and other things that you don't have if you're just in your own plan. For example, if there's uses you don't want, and you adopt this, and some of the other communities have them, if you want to update your zoning after this, then you don't have to have them, but you can have every use that you want too. So it allows you to have flexibility where you don't now, where you have to accommodate every use that you could think of, including like really, really intense uses. but you don't have to accommodate them unless you want to accommodate them. So it gives you more freedom to say yes and no in your regulations if you work with another community in a multi-municipal plan. And I don't know why the state legislature set it up that way, but that's what they did.
Okay. This question is from my meeting with Ron Engel. What is the involvement of the Lehigh Valley Economic Development Corporation as it refers to Lehigh Valley Planning Commission?
As it relates to this plan, they were invited to the steering committee meetings, and particularly at the upfront of the plan, they attended several of those meetings. We had kind of workshop sessions on different topics, like we had one with the school districts. We had one with people involved in transportation, public works, emergency management services. We had one with Workforce Development Corporation, workforce, not a corporation, workforce, oh my gosh, the WIB, the Workforce Investment Board, and LVEDC to talk about, along with the communities themselves, to talk about what they felt about need for jobs, need for various industries, and that was part of a series of roundtables that occurred. And then we've continually notified them of meetings along the way.
Was any funding provided by them to the plan itself, either the initiation of it or?
No, none.
Okay. I asked you this over the phone. If the other municipalities wanted to rezone the entire group by a vote from the steering committee or anything like that, would we be then obligated to have to rezone any portion or part of Mount Bethel?
No, you retain all of your rights. And that steering committee has no authority. It's basically an advisory body to you. Only you have that authority to change your zoning. So if you'd want to talk to them about trading uses because they've got something you don't want, or, you know, you could go back and forth and do that. But at the end of the day, the zoning code would still have to be written by you, and you would have to agree to it. You give up no authority that you have now. None. And I think that's a very, very important point. In fact, that was the whole premise for going into this, is everyone retain their rights through the planning process and then after the planning process.
Okay. Are there any proposed changes for our area or immediate uses for this plan other than just to satisfy state criteria to adopt a comprehensive plan?
Well, there's some things listed in the plan for your consideration to start working on, because you don't want to just do a plan and then like throw it on a shelf and never see it again, right? I think one of the big things that the plan does, and Joey could speak to this too, is it identifies what assets you have, and then you guys can decide how you want to manage those. And I think that's important. And so there's all kinds of data that was gathered as part of this. We are rebuilding an entire website for this plan. We had one along the way that just had like minutes of meetings and different drafts of plans and notes from the different roundtables and things like that. But now we're revisioning it, so it actually will have an online interactive map, so you can go and search an address and it'll tell you, okay, there's a likelihood of steep slopes there, there's a floodplain there, so you guys can do plan reviews for developments that you get. You can look at different assets. Oh, there's a bridge there. Okay, that's important. And then that will help the dialogue and discussion, especially as it relates to needed road improvements, and you have many, right? You have some bridge issues. You have some sensitivities due to terrain and other things. And so having all that information together basically gives you almost an encyclopedia of assets. And that's what you can leverage to develop whatever strategy you have for the township, whether it's looking at an economic development strategy that you may want to do, or looking at, I heard you talking about some land conservation issues, but if there's, other issues related to that you would want to talk about, you could. Your parks and recreation could be part of that. But again, it's a comprehensive general plan. And then there's a lot of information that after those goals that went into the creation of those goals, and we want to leave that behind so you have some working information to utilize.
Now, would it be you as consultants going around to assess the roads to give us that information, or would that be us giving you that information and you logging it?
We already did that as part of the planning process. Talk to your public works folks. We have access to bridge ratings and other things that the general public doesn't, that we aggregated into the whole plan itself. If you want us to make changes to it, well, we're your county planning agency no matter what. So you can always call us up, and Ken Eisner, who does that work in our office, can update that layer.
I see it as an environmental negative to this plan. Whether everyone else does or not, I consider myself an environmentalist. Since we have the largest land mass now going forward with this plan, the second would be Washington, of course. If the other boroughs wanted to put all their land preservation into Mount Bethel, would they be able to do that and then build on their area?
No, they could you retain your rights, they retain theirs. You still decide what you want preserved or what.
No, I understand that they wouldn't have a say on what we have, but
They
as I
can't
kind of
force
saw it,
anything
is
on
that
you.
we're sharing uses, correct?
Well, after action, you can choose to share uses, but you do not have to. Again, you can, but you don't have to. And again, that's the beauty of the multi-municipal plan is it gives you that right. If you want to do it, you can. If you don't have to. But if you do, you have the option to. Whereas if you didn't have a multi-municipal plan, you would have to accept every conceivable land use possible, from a nuclear power plant to 2 strip clubs. And that's just the way that the state law works. And sometimes people consider those LULUs or locally undesirable land uses. If somebody else has got some adult businesses, another part of the slate belt, you don't have to take them now if you don't want, right? If you want them, have fun. But if you don't have to have them. And that's the beauty of the multi-municipal, where if you're in just a single comprehensive plan, you have to have everything.
I think there's a misconception that one municipality cannot force another municipality to do anything.
Correct. Nobody can force anybody to do anything. You retain all your rights.
I'm not saying to force it, but just to say if we have this much land preserved over here, that could count towards what they would have to preserve.
They don't have to do anything. That's the whole. One municipality cannot force another municipality to do anything. And
there's no quota on preservation either, right? Like you can choose to, say, okay, I want to put this much in an ag security area based on actual agricultural uses, and you can do that. You can say that you don't want to preserve any more land as well. That's still your retained right. You can do that right now, but it's still your retained right. Like nobody can tell you one way or the other. Now, if you want to do some of that, obviously there's a process and procedure for that, but that's the whole point, is we identified what assets you have so you can figure out what you want to do next. Or not.
Well, I did have a lengthy conversation with Tina, our zoning officer, and currently we have all future uses covered. Is that correct?
I'm not an expert in your zoning code, but there's a lot of the uses are changing fast. Like if you don't have a specific definition for a high cubed automated warehouse, you have more than most people on those, different types of industrial uses. I'm trying to think of some other
We have
ones.
the largest
Data
industrial park
center,
out of anyone on this list.
Yeah, you want to have very specific definitions anymore. Like general definitions are not great. You want to, if you really want to look at like your housing categories as well and spend a little bit of time on that as an after action item, and just make sure that you have it organized in a way that makes sense for what's acceptable for you inside your community. That's important, right? Because one person's idea of medium density housing is another person's idea of high density housing, and another person's idea of high density housing is another person's definition of a skyscraper Manhattan style. So you really have to have clarity on some of those things. So you don't do that now as part of this, but you do it after the plan is adopted within 2 years. You want to just go through your code and make sure it makes sense for what's happening now. And part of that is looking at what case law has come out of the Pennsylvania courts. Because there are many things in the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code and that just generally lays out comprehensive planning, zoning, subdivision land development, official maps and the like. But it's those court cases and looking at individual identified land uses and how those have been ruled upon that's important to make sure that you're keeping your zoning code modernized, so you can make sure you stay out of court and you're providing for uses as they're seen now, not as they were seen 5 or 10 years ago. For example, you should definitely have a standalone use for billboards, right? The courts have been very clear on rulings about that. And so those are some things, you want to go through and check. Whether you have them now or not, I haven't looked at your zoning code and memorized it, but those are some things that we get calls about all the time. Wedding barns is another one that we get calls about. I don't know. Signage regulations, that's another thing.
Mr. Chair, while we're waiting for Supervisor Erler to look at his notes, let me just so I'm clear, because I represent other townships and municipalities, and I'm getting hit with the fact that if they adopt this comprehensive plan, they're going to have to change their zoning ordinance to meet the comprehensive plan requirements, to change their subdivision laws in order to meet the comprehensive plan requirements. And that's not my understanding, but if it is, tell me.
That is not what I said. What I said was that you have 2 years per the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code to review your subdivision land development ordinance, your official map, and your zoning code to see if it's consistent with your plan. If you feel that it is, that's fine. Put a bow on it and call it done. If you don't, then you can make minor changes to it. You could make major changes to it. You could start over if you want, but again, you retain all your rights to make that decision. The state law, it would have to happen regardless whether you're in a multi-municipal plan or not. Even single comprehensive plans have to have a review of the relationship of the ordinances within 2 years of the adoption of the plan.
So if you had particular things listed in there and we didn't have them in our current zoning, we would have to alter it to include them.
Well, you want to review it because the comprehensive plan is general. It's not a zoning code, and your zoning code's like super specific. So you just want to see, is it generally in conformance with the code? Or is the code generally in conformance with the plan is basically it. And so do you feel that it addresses the criteria that are set forth in the plan for overall goals and policies?
And what if we have a disagreement? We we say, yeah, it generally conforms to the multi-municipal plan, and you come back and say, you guys are way off. It doesn't conform to it all. Then what do we do?
Well, that's why we're the county planning agency, right? Like, we are your partner, not just your consultant. We're going to be around, right? So you can call us any day You pick up the phone and talk to Joey or Jill, Jill Seitz in particular, or Joey Doda, and they can sit down and talk you through that. We can come up and have additional meetings. We do on-calls for communities all the time. It's part of our role, which is outlined in the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code. Like literally our job description is in there to support local governments that are within the jurisdiction of the county. So, I mean, I would hope that we would have conversations along the way, so you aren't just sending us something, so we would have some sort of reaction that wouldn't be supportive, right?
Sure, sure, thanks.
Well, I don't really have any more questions, but I do want to say that I got in touch with Paige Stefani from Plainfield Township, and she said that their supervisors had a lot of unanswered questions that still remained, and that was one of the main reasons that they pulled out. Lower Mount Bethel, Jennifer Summers was very concerned over the timely response to any township needs with increased time and cost and no real benefit to Lower Mount Bethel. I spoke to Ron Engel, I spoke to Tina, I spoke to Nick, who prefers things stay in small government, which I am very fond of that as well. David Dew, who was on the steering committee when he was a supervisor, he was for the plan with Lower Mount Bethel and Plainfield and their geographical mass to add to the entire plan. Without them, he thinks that this is not a very good idea for Upper Mount Bethel. And I spoke to Judy Hinkle, she was all for the plan, who's currently on the steering.
It is of note that Lower Mount Bethel, I believe, left about a year ago, I think, at this point. They were very transparent that they were pursuing a simultaneous effort to the steering committee along with this effort. They weren't sure what they were going to do because of the situation with RPL. And they weren't sure what that was going to mean. They're also seeing development pushed up from Forks Township, and they felt crunched in the middle and not sure what that meant for them. And so they wanted to stay on their own. And Plainfield Township has had a significant change in the supervisors, the manager, the zoning officer, the secretary, the the engineering firm. And they weren't sure exactly where they wanted to go. And I explained to you this morning there were some issues between Plainfield, Wind Gap, and Penn Argyl over the landfill as well.
Yeah, well, the issue with the landfill that I kind of see that if a landfill is needed to satisfy the plan as a whole, I would just assume that it would go into areas that have a lot of land to accommodate for it, which would lead either us or Washington. So I understand that there are landfills in East Bangor, but I'm hearing things that, that they are meeting capacity.
You don't have to zone for capacity for eternity. If one is there and it's at capacity, it's still there. That satisfies a requirement as long as it's across two parcels. And I think that building into eternity thing is a very key point of the law in Pennsylvania that's important to note. You can allow more as long as you want it, but that's up to your decision as supervisors whether you want to allow more or not. But you do not have to allow more if you feel that that has been satisfied and you've got it covered on two parcels or more.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have any more questions.
Any other questions from the supervisors? Justin, anything?
Nope, nothing to add, thank you.
I just wanted you to say something tonight because you've been sitting there.
Just taking notes.
Ron, anything?
The only thing I can think of is that this review of the township ordinances to see if it's in conformance with the comprehensive plan. And if it is, fine. If not, then perhaps some changes should be made. I'm not sure who's qualified to do that other than having to hire an outside consultant to make that review. So just keep that in mind. There may be some cost in that regard.
Okay.
Would Tina be not adequate enough?
I don't know. I know I'm not competent enough to review a comprehensive plan to say whether it meets or doesn't meet our ordinances. I'm not a planner. I'm a lawyer. So,
In speaking with Tina, she doesn't think that Mount Bethel is in need of this plan, and it adds to expenses which otherwise could be saved.
I'd like to reinforce the fact that you are over 10 years past your deadline to meet the state requirement for a comprehensive plan. You've already gone down this path with us for over 5 years. We've had steering committee meetings every month that there was business. It was at least every other month, except during the pandemic when the group wanted to pause because of getting access to technology and everyone not having Zoom available at that point and internet access or know how to use it or other things. But we've been working on this as, you know, a team member with you guys for the last 5 years. Every one of the 7 other communities that remain in the plan have adopted this plan. It was unanimous with one exception in Bangor Borough where there was one dissenting vote, but it still passed. So you guys are the last to consider it for adoption. The rest of the 7 communities still remain in, and they've adopted it and are ready to proceed. So I think that's important to note.
Yeah, but our cost is the highest.
Okay, well, there's a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. You can come up afterwards, Ron. Yeah, we're going for the vote now. You could have come up during public comment.
Given that Ron was on the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission in the past, I mean, that is some, that's why I went to him.
Ron,
The
let
only
us
reason I went
discuss.
to him with questions on this is that he was involved in the committee. In the
You,
past.
how many questions do you have? No, I'm not going all night on this. If you have a question, you can ask Becky a question.
I want to know. I'd like to see a vote. Do you want me to be able to ask my question? Somebody needs to make a motion. Allow me to
Go ahead and ask the question.
Birmingham and Freeman rule, and that's what's going to
I thought Charlie Cole ruled. I thought Charlie Cole. Ron, ask the question if you have a question.
I have a number of questions, okay? LB, see, you don't want to hear this either. He's the sponsor of this. He wants
All right, Ron, go sit back down. Ron, please go sit back down.
Call you, please. The bottom line is,
Sit down, Angle!
Mr. Chair, call for the vote.
All right. Ron.
They do not. Separate boards, separate people.
All right, guys. Ron,
Ron, I
go
asked that
sit
question.
down.
It's unequivocally untrue, Mr. Engel.
can you tell me that there's more pluses in this for Upper Mount Bethel Township than there is minuses? If it is, then you should go for it, but there's not.
All right. There's a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No?
No.
1 no. 4-1. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming
I
out.
still respect your opinion.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys for coming out. Appreciate it. If you want any, Becky, if you want any candy for the ride home, Nick's got a whole bowl of candy for you. All right, next up is ordinance.
Thanks, Joe and Becky.
Next up is ordinance 2024-04, weight limit and sign ordinance. Ron?
Yes, Mr. Chair, this was on last month, and I was asked to add to the ordinance an exception to say for local deliveries or trucks or equipment that is being used to work at local properties along this restricted route, that they're permitted to do that. And because of that change, I was required to re-advertise, which I did. So that change has now been made. It has been re-advertised, and the ordinance is ready for adoption, if that's of the board's ilk.
And Jeff, TAC was good with it? Okay, thanks.
As long as the sign was on it.
Let me see here.
Yeah, we updated the map, the Exhibit 2 proposed signage along Railroad Avenue and Potomac Street out to Sunrise Boulevard. Trucks over 10 tons restricted except local deliveries. So that was disseminated to the supervisors and also forwarded to the township solicitor.
And
so we heard the concerns of the Transportation Advisory Committee and incorporate those into the
no,
plan.
you don't have the right ones. And I have added that new map, if you will, as an Exhibit B to the ordinance, substituting what was the old Exhibit B. So that has been changed. And the exception, let me just read it because it's an easy read. The ordinance shall not apply to any local deliveries for or to residents who live along the restricted street or roads in question, or any equipment or vehicles needed for home improvements by those residents.
Okay, any other questions from the supervisors? All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion to adopt ordinance 2024-04, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next up is ordinance 2024-03, the well ordinance.
That is on, Mr. Chair, to have the board authorize me to advertise that for adoption. Now, I was just speaking to Supervisor Erler prior to the meeting, and he's not yet had an opportunity to review that ordinance in detail, and it is a technical and rather complicated ordinance, so that I'm happy to advertise it, but understand that if Mr. Erler or anyone else, including myself, would need some additional time to review, I don't think the ad should be like soon. I think we should put the ad going at least a month, and then for an adoption later at that time. But that's your call as supervisor.
You mean to advertise it next month?
Well, if you're going to advertise it for next month, which I can do, I don't know if that's enough time or not. I mean, when I say next month,
That's in a week.
yeah, let me.
If
yeah,
you do it at the
let
end
me
of
just see.
How much time do you need, John?
It's just to avoid like we had to
Yeah.
advertise for this, then bring it back, and we're just spending more taxpayer money.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
two meetings are the 10th and 24th of February. Now, the 10th obviously is too close. The 24th, suppose, I would imagine I could advertise for that if you wanted to, that date, but it might be better to, again, the dates in February and March are the same, as you know, so it could be then set up for the March 10 meeting or the March 24 meeting. That gives everyone a good amount of time to review the ordinance and discuss it, because again, it's rather technical. I mean, I probably had to have a couple of shots as I was reading it because I was starting to fall asleep, so.
Am I the only supervisor that hasn't combed through it entirely?
I think Mr. Friedman has gone through it
Well,
very
yeah,
thoroughly. I'm not
Yeah,
sure
I
about
think
everyone else.
He was involved in the creation.
Yeah, I think it's you. I think it's, so how much time do you,
I think
go
by-
ahead and
by-
make the motion if you
By
want to
the
make it.
24th, should be okay. I don't have the ordinance in front of me, so I don't even know the resolution number, or the ordinance number.
And I'm not
Mr.
a
Chair, I'll make a
supervisor.
motion, we table this until Mr. Karasak can come up with the proper advertising so we can vote on this on March the 24th.
It would be the 10th of the first Monday or the 24th in March, but that certainly would give enough time, I would hope, for me and anyone else to look at the ordinance and make sure they're okay
that's
with
my-
it.
that's my motion.
That's 2 months out.
So which date? Pick a date, David.
I think March 24th.
Oh, okay. All right, is there a second?
I second.
Okay, any other discussion? Yeah.
Will it be a copy for everybody to get their hands on to look at it? Because I want to point out, during the minutes of a meeting on August 8, 2022, the question was asked, what is the purpose of this well ordinance? And that was a good question, by the way. And Mr. Teal at the time said, does this have anything to do with RPL? Mr. Freeman said, yes, it does. Okay, so I'm wondering why it has anything to do with RPL. And then later on, Mr. Dew asked, at the minutes in the meeting, I heard Mr. Teal ask Mr. Freeman if it was all about RPL, and I think the reply was yes. Did I just hear that? Mr. Freeman, it's all about RPL. So basically, this whole thing, according to this, is about RPL. And Mr. Teal says, I think this is all facilitated because of RPL. Mr. Freeman said, well, RPL is the one up there having trouble dealing wells. So the bottom line, this well ordinance started out because Mr. Freeman doesn't want RPL. I'm quoting the minutes on this case, by the way. It's not my opinion. It's your minutes. Okay? It's pretty evident he's the sponsor of this, and he's the sponsor of this because he wants to be an obstructionist to RPL.
And that's taken out of context, because if you remember, my exact statement was that the well ordinance was set up that an individual has to go through a 25-page well ordinance to drill a well. A developer, no matter who it was, because of an omission in the zoning ordinance, files a permit and can drill as many wells as he wants. Get your facts straight, Mr. Angle.
No, I'm quoting you out of the minutes, Mr.
Out of
Freeman.
context.
I'm quoting you out of the minutes.
All right, all right.
I'm not making any of this up. But the bottom line is, as Mr. Karasak said, this well ordinance is going to affect everybody in the township. And quite frankly, it was engineered by Charlie Cole in the very beginning. He's the one who said that we're not going to have enough water here, and people are drilling more wells, and there'll be a problem in the aquifer with water. Okay? Is there a study being done that proves that? The only thing I have is the minutes where you said, Mr. Freeman, it's all about RPL.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, we heard
Ron.
you.
All right, I'll be quick, but I mean, that was taken out of context. That's, what minutes? Are they planning commission? No, okay.
Ron,
Sure.
Ron.
Because did he, almost 3 years of committee meetings. This is the same with Plan Slate Belt, same with Wild and Scenic Rivers. People sit down for months on end, go through this. It's out there in the public. You could have come and talked about it. But there are minutes for over 3 years from the Well Ordinance Committee. And I don't think anybody ever said this is all about RPL. It's about the old ordinance that we had that only covered individual homeowners. It didn't cover any big user of water. We were trying to bring that all together, and yes, there was a study done. GL Services did a groundwater study for a whole township, and we can go back and repeat that. It's about what water do we have, where it is, and how can we keep it quality for the residents. So that's it. I'm done.
Well, I think, and I think we all have enough time to go through the well ordinance again for those of us who have gone through it, and you're going to go through it on your end.
It's also about keeping a record and trying to develop the past wells that are currently in place, correct, Mr. Friedman?
That's correct.
Okay. Any other comments from the supervisors? We got a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up is supervisor compensation ordinance. This is in terms of our current compensation and the new caps. The new cap for township with the population of 5,000 to 9,999 is $4,190 for the year. This again would apply to new supervisors coming in or re-elected supervisors when the term is up. This would not come to the supervisor sitting up here tonight. That being said, is there a discussion or a motion to be made?
Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt a new supervisor compensation plan.
And give the amount, if you can.
What was it?
Right here.
No, we had discussed a 5% raise.
Oh, so what are you going
That
to
would
put
be
it at?
discussion.
Where's the old one I gave you?
What's that?
You.
Wait, who owns the town? Everybody owns the town but me. I want to own the town. Am I the puppet? Look, I'm a puppet. All right.
I think it was,
Go ahead, Dave.
Nick, what was it, 2,665? Yeah, 5%. I think it was 100. It was a 5% increase. I think
Okay,
it came
you
to.
can
I
do
think,
it on that. You can just say 5% increase.
5% increase of the $2,500.
Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
Is there a second?
You only want to go 5%?
If you want to go more, amend the
You can
motion.
amend the motion if you want.
You can go up to $4,190. We suggest. The 5% was factored in the budget. 2,665. Yeah, so it was $2,665 with a 5% increase.
So, Joe, at the end of the year, when a new supervisor is put into my seat, whether it be me or someone else, then that rate would go from paying that seat $2,500 to whatever we decide to raise it, and then
That's $2,625.
the next election after that, those two supervisors would get that.
Correct.
So it would be easier to budget going forward with the seats rotating every 2 years.
It's $125 a year. 3.4 cents an hour.
No. They're not.
It's already in.
No, it'll be worked into the budget.
You have it in 2025's budget, correct? Did you put it in 2025's budget?
Yeah.
Yeah. And no, right. So we didn't get it, taxes didn't go up,
Right.
and then you just carried across to 2026. Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, any other discussion?
I personally think that with the cost of living as high as it is, that we should go to the max, $4,100, $4,190 for the year.
Okay, the motion's been amended. Is there? Yeah.
I just don't think we should get paid at all, to be honest. That's my own honest opinion.
They give me your pay.
No, I'm just saying, I don't think we should.
So we got 5%, we've got,
No, I'm bringing this up in discussion.
oh, okay, so you're not amending the motion?
Not at the moment, and
Okay.
just with the amount of work and the amount of hours that we do put into this.
Yeah, and
still,
it-
that's only, what, $280 a month?
Yeah.
Something like that when you break it down?
Yeah, and I don't think it's,
That just, that
I-
would just cover fuel costs.
I don't think it's, the salary isn't I'm not going home and buying a Lamborghini off my supervisor's salary.
I'm not going to Frank's and buying a sandwich with my salary.
Yeah, and, a supervisor can deny salary and say, I don't want to get paid. I spent 1 year donating my salary to the fire departments, or actually two, I think 2 or years or 3 years donating to the fire department. So the supervisor can take the salary, which they're welcome to do, and I think it's fair to get paid because it's not that much. And if they don't want the salary, you can always tell Diane, I don't want to get paid, or I want to donate it back to the community. Or you can donate it to Stavros's Parks and Rec Committee. Yeah, you can always do that. Yeah, we can always bring it up again. We can always bring it up again. That's right, Joe. Okay, we have a motion on the floor to raise it 5% to $2,625. It's been seconded. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Any opposed? One nay. 4-1. Okay, and last up under new business, treasurer and assistant treasurer bonds. Nick?
Okay, Mr. Chair, this finally has come to an end. It took a while, as we spoke about, the auditors recommended us to raise our bond for the treasurer to $7 million. So I investigated that, sent it to 2 different insurers, and we came back with, finally, one came back with a fee of $70,000 for $7 million.
Per person, Nick?
No, for just John Birmingham, the treasurer, just the treasurer, which was unacceptable. So we looked into it further, and after reading the actual PSATs, actually the code, the second-class township code, it's the Board of Supervisors that determine how much that treasurer is supposed to have. And in the past, as we discussed, former Chair Marty Pinter brought it up, which was valid points. It's always been $2 million for years. It was as we looked it up, it was probably like $1 million in the early 2000s, but it was basically for years $2 million for the manager, $2 million for the treasurer for years. So John and I spoke about it. Dave Freeman, we spoke about it, and we brought in our solicitor Ron Karasak to go over what we thought. We all agreed that it's the Board of Supervisors, not the auditors. The state gives the rights to the Board of Supervisors to determine what that amount is. John, as the treasurer, is only in charge of one account, and that's the police portion of their benefits, the pension plan.
And how much is in that?
Right now, it's under $500,000. That's it. The control, you guys give me the control of all of the accounts, but I don't have full access because in place we have all of these fail safes, positive pay, 3 signatures on checks that are over $19,000. You have to have 3 signatures. There's controls in place, but John only has control of that account, and technically he doesn't have control because it's the overseers, the board, that oversees that money that issues. There's 2 people that are collecting right now, and that's it. So we decided we heeded to former Supervisor Pinter, so we looked into increase in mine from $2 million to $3 million, and John, instead of $2 million, would be $3 million, and it costs $500 more for both of us. So we decided to go that route instead of obviously the $7 million for $70,000, which was
And how much does it cost for a $3 million bond?
For $3 million, it's $1,750 for each of us.
Then how the heck does it go? That's my
Exactly.
question. How do you?
Exactly.
In Ron's words, how do you explain that it goes up to
I couldn't
70,000?
explain it. I fought with them, and they said they wanted to charge us $140,000 for John, but since he had good credit, they said, well, we'll knock it down to 70. I said, that's not even feasible. I says, our interest in our general fund is like $90,000. You're absorbing all of that in one fee. It makes no sense. And so when we dug into the Section 702 rule, it basically states that it's the Board of Supervisors that are the ones that make the bond for. Yeah.
Bottom line is, I'm just picking this out here, and the only logical thing here is, you have bad credit.
No.
I mean, what else would do this?
Absolutely not.
I don't have bad credit.
Well, then what the hell would do this?
Can I read this?
If I can interrupt.
They just said it was 140,000, but because I have good credit, they said we'll knock it down to 70,000.
If you want, Mr.
I mean, my credit score is 210, so.
Mr. Karas, I want to make a statement.
Well, I could
Yeah.
read the, I could
Well,
read
I just want to make clear that the treasurer's bond statute, as per the second-class township code, says, again, supervisors set the amount, but the bond has to be equal to the highest amount of township funds estimated by the Board of Supervisors to be available to the township treasurer. So if the best you can do is have the township funds of $500,000, certainly $7 million is extremely excessive, and maybe even $3 million, but that's what the statute says. You don't have to do anything more than that.
So you need the supervisors to set what my bond should be tonight.
Yeah, because originally, in January, we set it up at the reorg to look at the 7 million, and you wanted to do 7 million. So you have to, I guess, and Solicitor Karasek probably could give you better, you have to rescind that and then add it and make it 3 million. But if I can, can I read the email that I received about you and
What's that?
And your credit?
I'd say it again?
From the insurer that wanted to charge us 70.
Yeah, go
She
for it.
mentioned you, and this is verbatim. The original quoted a rate of 2% or $20 per thousand based on the bond amount. This would have been $140,000 for a $7 million bond. Because John Birmingham has stellar record that meets or exceeds all the benchmarks and requirements, we were able to get the rate cut to half to $10 per thousand, or 1%, which would be $70,000 for the 7 million. So it had nothing to do with John's credit, because his rate is same as my credit. I know what my credit is, so it's the same rate for the 3 million. It's $1,750. We both have the same rate for the 3 million, and that's the maximum that you can get as a public servant. So once you get past that 3 million, because I think Marty mentioned 5 million, then you go into this other category that no one else is in for public works. So,
Okay.
But at the $3 million rate, that's 1,700 is what you said, right?
yeah, 1,750.
That's less than 1%. So
It's way, yeah, it's a
it
whole
goes by a
different.
different class.
Yeah, it's a whole different calculation when you get past 3 million.
And that being said, Mr. Chair, I make a motion, we establish the treasurer and assistant treasurer's bonds at $3 million.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Executive session, Ron, do we have anything?
Mike.
Unfortunately, we do, but hopefully it'll only be about 5 minutes or so. I just need to advise you and get you up to speed with respect to a potential
we're gonna-
area of litigation.
We'll be back in 5 minutes. You heard it from our solicitor first. We're going into executive session. It should just be like,
Trust me, we want that too.
like the Jeopardy time clock or something. Once it goes, you got to come out of executive session. All right.
All right,
This
Mr.
meeting back in order. It's 9:49 p.m.
We
Ron?
were in executive session on a potential matter involving what I believe to be potential and coming litigation. I don't want to be involved with names, et cetera, until such litigation would be filed, but it deals with a township resident.
Okay, so we went into executive session.
It deals with the township resident, but I do not want to get names, et cetera, until we actually file something, or we get filed.
Okay, so we went into executive session. You heard what we discussed. Is there any action to be taken out of executive session?
No action to be taken.
Okay, no action to be taken out of executive session. With that being said, can I get a motion to adjourn? Oh, no, we got announcements. I forgot all about it.
I make a motion to adjourn.
All right, why don't we do this? Does anybody have any important announcements that need to be stated?
Yes, I do.
Fire victims' names.
Supervisor Erler.
So we got in touch with the emergency coordinator for East Bangor, Citronia, Suburban, Mount Bethel, and North Bangor fire departments, and we set up a time and date for the hands-only CPR and Stop the Bleed class from Mount Bethel, and other townships are welcome to participate as well. The date is March 11th at the firehouse. It's going to be 2 hours. You can leave at any time from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Chris was here earlier. I was hoping he'd stay because I'd like to ask the Women's Auxiliary if they would like to set up like a cookie sale or a treat sale to try and raise money in other ways for them.
If you shoot me a text tomorrow, whatever, I can get you the number of the Ladies Auxiliary.
Perfect, thank you.
Is this the same program we had in East Bangor then?
This is going to be an enhanced program that was in East Bangor. We're expecting to reach out to Lower Mount Bethel. Rosetto has a couple members that want to go. Upper Mount Bethel. We have 2 firehouses that to issue volunteers. I talked to both chiefs. They said that they would send their EMTs and EMRs to help the program. We're getting the bleeding mannequins for one set of group, so you can actually perform it if you want to do that, or you could just do a basic tutorial if it's your first time going. You don't want to get that involved. That's why we're going to provide the extended an extra hour. East Bangor's was just 1 hour, and I felt that it was a bit rushed, and so did the mayor. 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. If anyone wants to volunteer, please shoot me an email. We're going to need help setting up and breaking down at the end.
Okay, anything else?
That's it.
All right, Supervisor Ekman.
Not at this time.
Supervisor Friedman.
Are you going to cover the names for the fire victims?
Yeah, I'm
okay.
bringing them
Then
up
nothing
now.
at this time, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Albert. Yeah, thanks. Nick?
Just 2 quick things, actually 3. We talked about that tree that was over on, what Joe was talking about on Lake Mincy. That tree, I just found out from the fire chief, that was not called in by the county. The county was responsible to call Med Ed to tell them that that tree was, when Jimmy Potter called them today, they had no ticket for it. So that should be removed tomorrow. The other thing was I brought up about the electric. Why is the electric, when it goes out in River Road, now all of a sudden everywhere in township is going out? There was a bad accident in Portland, if everybody remembers, it was knocked down the poles. It was a car, the person that knocked out. I guess there's a switch there. Well, when they put the electric back online, they didn't replace that switch, and that's the reason why that we're getting all these issues with the electric going out all the way into Portland up $1 million Turkey Ridge Road. That's supposed to be that's supposed to be replaced. And number three is I just wanted to give a shout out to our volunteer firemen. They were really busy this weekend. They did a great job as usual. They all came out in the cold weather, and at least, I mean, there was a lot of damage to the homes and where the old country roads was across from Lake Mincy. They saved cats, and the pets, unfortunately, one lost its life, but it saved all the people and got everybody out. They do a great job, and at the same time, a lot of people don't know, there was actually a call at 5 Points where a woman got doused in fuel because one of the hoses blew up when she was putting gas in her car. So they had to leave there, some had to leave and go down to 5 Points to take care of it. But, can't take them. These guys are great. They respond, they keep us safe, and I'll be quiet. Everyone wants to leave. So, but anyway, just a shout out to our volunteer firemen.
Thank you, Nick. Cindy? Nothing? Okay. Just a couple quick things. Thank you to everyone who came down and donated clothes to the victims of the fire that took place last week by Mincy Lake. Meeting with Centronia tomorrow about regional ambulance coverage. Supervisor Erler and I are meeting with Centronia. And a congratulations to Mark Metzger. I did find out that Mark received the 2025 General William G.T. Tuttle Jr. Award for Business Acumen in Defense and Government. So, Mark, thank you for that's great accomplishment and appreciate it.
Did you purposely wait for Mr. Engel to leave to make that statement?
No, I couldn't keep him in. Well, maybe I'll just announce it now at every meeting from here on out. And so for the victims of the fire that by Mincy Lake, if you want to donate, I think we have enough clothes at this time, and there's Prince of Peace who's going to help out as well. And so thanks. And what's the name of the thrift shop in Portland? Anybody know offhand? The thrift shop in Portland, right across from the walking bridge.
I was just there too.
We'll get the name, and I'll thank them next week. But if you want to donate or write a check to any of the individuals, I have it on my supervisor Facebook page, but it's Samantha Pittinger, Carly and Jacob Rickner, Ralph Romano, and Kevin Hauer. And you can get the spelling off of...
Is it on our Facebook page?
Is it on our Facebook page? No, I don't think so. Yeah, it's on my page. So, all right, that being said, do we get...
Janet Gems.
Janet Gems Thrift Shop. I can't say that. In Portland. What a nice lady. And she helped out Joe and Anna, who had the fire in Evergreen, and she contacted me about any of the fire victims can go down there and pick out some clothes. So thank you so much. That being said, anybody want to keep this meeting going, or anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Making a motion to adjourn?
Okay, is there a second? Second. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Have a good night. Thanks.